Hi, I'm Lisa Prokopyshin. I'm a DBT therapist living and working in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm here to talk to you about one of the new DBT skills called How to End Relationships. In our clinic, this is a set of skills that we're teaching primarily in individual sessions and also generalization group, which is an advanced skills group. I thought we'd talk a little bit about it today. So how to end relationships. This actually might be a really useful skill for you. If you're somebody that you really struggle knowing when is the right time to end a relationship, and even if you do, you just don't know how to do it, you don't know how to be effective, this might be the skill for you. And it's a set of skills that could really help you out. And I hope actually move you from the place where maybe you feel like there's no way you can end this destructive relationship to being able to effectively weigh the cost of leaving versus the cost of staying. Or on the other hand, acting on emotion, mind urges and, ending the relationship abruptly, to actually being able to use a set of DBT skills that make sense in your situation to help you sort it out. This could include mindfulness, of course, if you're not in wise mind. Dear man, fast, give, cope ahead, problem solving. It's going to probably include some combination of that depending upon your situation. Because you could, if you're in a situation that you don't want to leave, or that leaving is against your values, or the costs with leaving really outweigh the benefits of leaving, you might use problem solving. But we're going to talk more about the situations where you wouldn't use problem solving. So we've all been in this situation. We think to ourselves, how did I get here in this relationship, right? It's usually not a single sprout of a weed that causes a garden to become totally overrun. It's a series of events that happens over time. And those events just start growing out of control. And at some point, the relationship might not be repairable. It can be very painful to pull out weeds, especially, when you don't feel ready or you don't want to. But if we don't pull out weeds ever, we do run the risk of the garden getting totally overrun. There might actually be a time that makes sense. So let me tell you about a time that this makes sense for me and what I actually did. So I had this friend. I'm talking about a friend, but you could use this with all kinds of relationships, including dating. And certainly if you were in a domestic violence situation, we would look at how do we hook you up with the right resources in your community for domestic violence. But I'm talking about a friendship here. So I had a friendship, and I really wanted to like this person. I honestly did. But honestly, and believe me, I tried. Sometimes all the problem solving in the world can't force two people to get along. You just can't. So it was a series of events, one event after another, and honestly, I was really sad after each event. So would you end it at this point? So the first event, my friend was babysitting my dog because she really liked my dog, and I was willing to do that. And I told her there's one condition. You can't put my dog out on a tie out. She will break out. She's young, she's impulsive, and she's pretty strong. So please don't do that. And my friend did that anyway. So at the time, I wasn't ready to end the friendship. I said, I desperately want to like this person, and maybe I can problem solve here. So I really gave her a lot of education on this. Really tons of education. But it happened again, honestly. And my dog got out a second time, and she almost got hit by a train. Believe it or not, I still didn't end the relationship at that point. So then when I was at my friend's house, she wanted to cook for me, which is fine. I like food. But I had to say to her, hey, can you cook me something gluten-free? I have celiac disease. And no problem, no problem. So then she cooked me something that as I'm eating it, she told me it actually had gluten in it. And she thought I would be fine because I'm not very sensitive. In fact, I really am. believe it, can you believe this? At this point, I still didn't end this relationship. So does this make sense how it's a series of events? I actually had to get sick on gluten a second time, and I got really sick for me to finally say, you know, I'm very sad about this, but like I said, sometimes all the problem solving in the world can't fix it. I could choose not to have her babysit my dog. I could choose not to eat at her house. But at that point, it was like the weeds just, they had grown out of control, and there were too many bad feelings, negative feelings on my part. And in fact, you know, I think when a relationship harms your health or well-being, it's time to start to weigh those pros and cons. And you can see that on your handout. It did in this case. Or, you know, your self-esteem, your integrity. These are all things that might make a relationship kind of destructive. Or you might have other relationships that really interfere with your quality of life. Say like a really jealous boyfriend. And you weigh your pros and cons and you say, you know, the benefits of going outweigh the risks of staying. It makes sense. So then what do? We've done our pros and cons. Now we move on to the next set of skills that make sense in this relationship. And for me, it was a lot of cope ahead and a little bit of dear man fast and give too. I script things, I practice things, and I actually figured out how to say no. No, I actually don't want to have a meal at your house, or no, I don't want to get together, but thanks for the invitation. Very hard to do. Very hard to be true to your values, but at the end of the day, once that garden was cleared off, it was like a weight had been lifted, and that's when you know you really made the right decision. But I'd really encourage you to do some pros and cons first. I actually think that's the #1 thing if you're thinking about how to end a relationship, because you know what? If you end it impulsively and you don't have all those things set up, you might start to regret it later. You might feel bad. You might engage in destructive behaviors yourself. If you do all the work ahead of time, if you start to have self-doubts come in, or you're thinking, I desperately want to like this person and maybe I could problem solve, you could say, hey, I did this, this, and this. And you know what? Those weeds were still growing out of control. So I got to the point where really I did have to make a change. So I'm Lisa Prokopician. That is the How to End Relationships handout in DBT. I'm wondering if you have any situations right now that you're wondering about. I think the first step, if you are just starting to think about this now, might be pros and cons. If you've already done that, let's talk about what your next step is. Thanks for listening.